Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today we did it. You did it. I didn't do anything, but you did it. It's the 600 subscriber Ask Me Anything. Yes, we hit 600 subscribers. That's all up to you. So thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited and just grateful and humbled. As I say every time, when I started this channel 2.5 years ago, I didn't expect anyone to actually watch any of this. I was just just an expression. I just wanted to sort of talk about comics into space instead of into my wife's ear. And people started watching it. So it's crazy to me that there's over 600 subscribers now. So thank you all very much. I did want to mention that this time around, I didn't actually have a giveaway associated with this. So we actually have a lot fewer questions than usual. Because usually what I do is I'm like, I'm going to give something away when I hit the number, and all you need to do to enter is ask me a question, and then I get a bunch of new subscribers, and they ask me questions. I decided not to do that this time. It's not that I don't like giving things away. I do. In fact, the reason I didn't do it is because I do like giving things away, and the last couple haven't really gone that well. Because the people who won the 400 and the 500 subscriber contests never actually contacted me to get their prize. Like, I never got an email with their address, so I wasn't able to send it out. So I still have those books. I'm not quite sure what to do with them. With the 400 subscriber, it's been a long time now. I don't even know how long, but probably almost a year. I don't even know what's, like, I have a box of comics that I packed a year ago to send that person, and it's just been sitting in my closet waiting for an email. So I don't even know what's in there. Maybe I'll do an unboxing. So I just wanted to avoid that. It's stressful for me to have this sort of stuff floating out there. So if I don't hear, if you happen to have won one of those, let me know. If not, I think at some point I may just, maybe for 700 subscriber Ask Me Anything, I'll give away both of the earlier ones that I wasn't able to actually send out. So that's why I didn't have a contest this time, because I really want to get that stuff out to people. Like, it's a responsibility for me. I take it very seriously, and when I'm not able to, it's sort of like hanging over my head for a year. That stuff is still in my closet. So maybe next time. But in the meantime, we do have these questions. Again, there aren't nearly as many as usual. Last time there was like 23 questions. I think we have only half that this time, but I'm going to answer them. Some of them have nothing to do with comics, but I'm going to answer them anyway, because that's the kind of guy I am. That's why you subscribe to me, because I will do any dumb thing you ask me to. So here we go. First question. It is from Chi Tin. Not sure I'm mispronouncing that right, but 2 questions. First, can someone blind from birth see in their dreams? Well, I'm not a doctor, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. However, I did Google this because I wanted to give you the correct answer. Someone blind from birth see in their dreams. So it seems like the answer is probably no. What I was reading is that research suggests that people that lose their sight before the age of 5 typically don't tend to have visual elements to their dreams. They're more likely to have other senses, so they'll dream. Their dreams will be sound and taste and touch and stuff like that. So, again, not a doctor, but Dr. Google suggests that that's probably the case. So, hope that helps. Second question from Cheatin. Do cannibals think clowns taste funny? I'm gonna go with probably a no on that. My guess is that traditional cannibalistic societies, for instance, are probably not that familiar with clowns. I've been playing a lot of. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Crusader Kings, but I've been playing a lot of games that are like historical emulators, and I think a society that develops cannibalism is unlikely to also develop clown traditions. I could be wrong. Now, individual cannibals like Hannibal Lecter, I think the answer is still no. So it's possible that they may eat a clown because they think that's funny. but I don't know. Anyway, thanks for the questions, I guess. Okay, next up, Anthony Purdue. 2 more questions here. Have you read any chapters from Pulp Empire yet? So the answer to actually both your questions is going to be no. Spoilers. I'll read the second one in a second. Frankly, I've been so busy that I haven't been able to do anything. I had some stuff come up. I won't get into some work stuff, but I had a big project that suddenly appeared that I was not expecting. And that took up so much time that I got behind on all of the stuff that I normally do, like making YouTube videos and reading comics and stuff, but also making comics. So I had this big thing that I was not expecting suddenly come out of nowhere that I had to do, and had just launched a Kickstarter, and so I am still digging out from that because the Kickstarter ended about 3.5 weeks ago now, I guess, and normally by this time I'll have the book sent to the printer because it's very important to me to get this stuff out, to fulfill books for people. And I expected to have the book 100% done by the time the Kickstarter ended, or at the very least by the time I got the money, right? But I was not able to work on the book at all while I had this other project. And so I built an extra time in that Kickstarter. So I always do that just in case something comes up. And in this case, not only did that come up, but it turned out that the work that I had to do was way more than I thought. I essentially had to re-ink the entire 34-page comic, the whole thing, plus do some other work that I was not expecting. So I've just been so busy on this stuff. The good news is, as I mentioned, I always build an extra time on my Kickstarters. So just in case something comes up, in this case, several things came up. But the upshot of this is that the Kickstarter, I'm supposed to have that sent sometime this month. I told people I'd have it sent to the printer this month, and I'd have digital award this month, and I will. I think by the time you're seeing this video, I should have it sent to the printer, and I'll be getting the digital awards ready. So I'm not going to be late. It's very important to me not to be late on anything, but I just haven't had time to do anything else. Which is also the answer to your second question, which is, have you found out any more information about who at DC was involved in Mighty Man? No, I mean, even when I have time, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find anything else out about that. I'm trying to keep an ear out in case the people that have access to primary research, that are working on that, do find answers. So hopefully, if those answers are found, then I will find out about them. But I haven't heard anything yet, and I haven't really had a chance over the last few weeks to check. But I appreciate the questions very much, and thank you. I'm sorry that I have not had more time really to devote to this stuff, because this is what I like doing. So this is what I want to be doing. But once I get caught back up, I think another week and a half or so, I'll be back on top of things. Then I can actually start to do some of this fun stuff. Making comics is fun, but it's also just a lot of work. So thanks very much for the questions. Silver Knight Kyle, 2 questions. Number 1, who is your coolest 50th subscriber? That's you, Kyle. That's you. Second question, other than All-Star Comics number 8, what's the biggest comic on your want list? That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure of the answer. I'm going to say probably Pep 22. I mean, the big books on my want list the reason I don't have them is because I'm never going to get them. That's basically the answer to that. Most of the things that are theoretically possible, I already have. And the things I don't have is because I don't think it's possible. So, Pep 22 is up there. Archie number 1 is up there. So those are 2 big books. I think Archie 1 those are in the same range really as an All-Star 8. I think Pep 22 might actually be going for more than All-Star 8 now. I'm not sure about that. Archie number 1 is more doable than either of those, but I don't expect to get any of those. There's some other Golden Age books that are big, that are high on my list. You know, Captain America comics number 1. It would be like a top 5 Grail book for me as well. And then More Fun 73. I'm a big Green Arrow fan, and that has the first appearance of Green Arrow and the first appearance of Aquaman. Also, Outer Range. So, like, I don't really expect to be able to get any of those things. There's books from the Silver Age and Bronze Age that I would like because they're cool. You know, it would be really cool to have a Fantastic Four number 1, for instance, but I don't really need those books, so I don't think I'm ever going to get those either unless I, like, win the lottery or something, because I can't, my interest in those books is not high enough to justify, I don't care enough about them to justify the amount of money that they would cost. So, and most of the stuff that I really want, like I said, I have. So, like, there's a lot of stuff still on my checklist, of course, different romance books. But, yeah. That's basically the answer. Pep 22, Archie 1, Captain America Comics 1, and More Fun 73 are kind of the big ones that I don't expect I'll ever get. But thanks very much for asking. I appreciate it. Metarog. Hi, Metarog. Thanks for all the support. I really appreciate it. 2 questions. Everyone's asking me 2 questions, which is great because I have so few this time. And those 2 questions are, first, how much fair market value do you figure you have towards your All-Star 8 from the trading challenge? Great question, and the answer is I don't know, and that's part of the reason why I haven't been doing it. So I've just talked about how incredibly busy I am. That's number 1. I love doing the trading. And I recorded the last trading challenge video way back, like in February, and have not run it. And the reason is, as much as I love trading, it is a lot of work. There's a lot of haggling with the deals, figuring out the deals, contacting lots of different people on different channels. And then there's the packing and the mailing and all that stuff. And it's great, but it's a lot of work, and I just don't have time right now. But the other thing is the market has kind of crashed. You know, the market had a huge upswing last year, and now it's gone down. And the market's so volatile that it's very difficult for me to keep up with the price value changes. And I have to be on top of those to have fair trades with people. And so it's a lot of work to keep up with that. And, you know, the value of my books has dropped, which is very discouraging. So I'll say that, like, when I recorded that video in January or the beginning of February, the fair market value was about $2,000. So I had gotten up to the $2,000 mark, which is great. And I had gotten my first, like, really big book. I say really big, but at the time, and I haven't shown this in my videos, but it's an Ultimate Fallout 4 with the first Miles Morales, and it's signed by 2 of the creators. And it's not a 9.8. It's nice, but it's probably a 9. Maybe an 8.5. People get very harsh on these moderns, but I'd say it's around a 9, right? So it's nice, but it has a couple, like, spine ticks and stuff, so it's not going to get a 9.8. At the time, I had it valued about $750, and that book's gone down a lot. And so just in the last few months, I've lost like a third of the value on that book alone. And it's not the only one. There's a Miracle Man #1, which I don't think I have anymore. I think I might have sent that to somebody. There was a brief period where when I added that to the trading pool, it was going for like $80, $100 in near mint, but that only lasted a short period, and then it like crashed back down. And so I've had a lot of losses, just like everybody, on things. So again, it was $2,000 back in beginning of February was my fair market value, my trading pool. And now, I mean, I don't know, but my guess is it's probably, I'll be lucky if it's 1,500. It's probably more like 1,400. Now, it's tricky when I have so many books and the market is fluctuating for everything. But like, if it doesn't fluctuate as much for the All-Star 8, then I'm screwed because that's just one book. And so, you know, I'm trying to have 20 books like go up in value to increase my trading pool value. And if the one book that I'm trading for gets hot, then it's going to outpace everything I'm doing because and vice versa. And I know that book has come down from the high from before the second movie, but I think I'm losing value faster than the book is. So even with the trades that I've been doing, even though I have a lot more value than when I started, I think I'm losing ground relative. So it's kind of like that slow motion chase scene in the 8th Star Wars movie. It's kind of like what that's happening here. So a little discouraged. I will get back to the trading challenge. I've already promised Kyle that I'll be doing that, Kyle. I haven't forgotten. There's certain books that I know he wants, and he has certain books that he's waiting to trade to me. So I have some things lined up. It's just, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. And I hope to get that time sometime soon. So we'll see. Hopefully when I dig myself out of this hole I'm in right now, I'll have the time to do that. Second question from Metarog. Can you rank your favorite Wonder Woman eras? Golden Age, Mod, Post-Crisis, Black Costume, etc. Black Costume? You're talking about the Mike Deodato era? Yeah, that's not going to be up on the list. Favorite... Okay. My favorite Wonder Woman era is the Mod era. And I know that's blasphemy for some people. But I like the Golden Age stuff. It's not really my speed, but I actually like the H.G. Peter art. So I like the Golden Age stuff. I'm not a fan of the Silver Age stuff, particularly later in the Silver Age, so I'm not a fan of the Silver Age Wonder Woman. The Mod books for me, as I've talked about before, I had put together a full run of starting with the beginning of the Mod era with 178 up until the end of Crisis. 329, and then I also had the whole George Perez post-Crisis 162 or whatever, and I've read some after that. That's basically my Wonder Woman. And I've read, some of the earlier stuff. And for me, the Mod era is just the best stories. Now, I would say Mod era is first. Post-Crisis Perez is second. The book for me tailed off once he wasn't drawing it anymore. And that's not a knock on the people that are drawing it after. I mean, it's obvious to say, oh, whoever was drawing it after wasn't as good as George Perez, but it wasn't even that. It was more that only Perez could really capture what he was trying to do in terms of the writing, and I didn't feel like the storytelling was doing his stories as much justice. And so, but I still like the first part of his run a lot. After that, I mean, I think the Dan Mishkin era right at the end of pre-Crisis is actually pretty good. That's probably a close third. I actually like that quite a bit. Very different from the Perez book, but I like it quite a bit. And then other eras, like I haven't really read a lot of them. I have read some of the ridiculous Black Costume era just before issue 100. I've read a few of the John Burns. Like none of those rate for me. I've heard really good things about the Phil Jimenez run, but I have not read those. Gail Simone seemed pretty good. I did read some of those, but like, more modern stuff I just don't get into that much because I don't care about the universe, and everything is always so tied into whatever crap they're doing right now at DC. So for me, Mod, easy number one. And then Perez, and then right below that, the Dan Mishkin. Like, it's very close. I really have a soft spot for the Mishkin run. So it's like from around, I forget what issue took over, like 301 maybe, around there, up until just before the end of Crisis. I think he left with like 324 or something like that, 325. So really like that run. I think it's really underrated. So anyway, thanks Metarog for the question. I appreciate it. Next question comes from Beer Marshall. Thanks very much for the question and for watching and subscribing and support. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you for watching this. Beer Marshall asks, not sure I've ever heard you talk about the pre-Hero comics era or newspaper comics. And my question is, what, if any, are some of your favorite comic books and comic strips from before 1938? The only one I know at all well is Little Nemo, which I love. I've also read just a bit of Crazy Cat, but that's about it. I can't say that I've gotten into them too much. I'm familiar with Little Nemo. I have read a few things earlier. It's PreHero comic stuff, and none of them have really grabbed me. I will say that as a kid, I was into the comic strips before I was into comics. It was just sort of a gateway. And one strip that I really liked was Gasoline Alley, which was still running in the 80s. And still had the same continuity from the PreHero era, because that book started, I'm not even sure when it started, but that strip started, I think, in the 20s. And the characters aged, and then like their children and grandchildren became the main characters, but they were still in the book as old people. And so when I was a little kid in the late 70s and early 80s, I was actually really liked Gasoline Alley, and I really liked that historical aspect of things. So, I mean, the strip felt anachronistic because it still had that sort of like Depression era sort of aesthetic to it, which is very strange in the early 80s. But that's one that I've always meant to look into a little bit more. So I don't know if that answers your question. I haven't really read a lot. And it's not that, as you know, I'm not a huge, like, superheroes are not necessarily my favorite thing, but there's a certain storytelling aesthetic that you get if you get back into the 20s and teens and the comics, in particular, comic strips from those periods, that does not always work for me. I mean, I'm a history buff, so I can tolerate quite a bit of that sort of thing, but there's something, I'm not quite sure what the right word is. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but there's a certain, when I read the old stuff, comic strips in particular, but other media as well, there's a feeling I get that the late teens and the 1920s were sort of the first modern era in terms of a self-awareness about the media, but just there's a certain self-awareness that almost this reads a little bit cynical and a little bit smug at the same time in some of the types of humor. Like, they're aware of what they're doing in a way that that is on display. It's on display in a way that was not present in previous times. And I don't know how much of that had to do with the movies and other modern things like radio coming along and stuff like that. But there's a certain sort of like the type of humor in particular, and most of the strips from that time are going to be humor strips that I find a little annoying, because it's just kind of a little bit like too pleased with itself. I don't know. I'm not really explaining it well, but it does not resonate with me. So I haven't read a lot. I don't know. I wish I could give you more examples, but I do see that some of the other commenters have already given you some better answers than I could. So I feel like everyone's asking me great questions, and my answer is basically like, I have no idea, and I haven't had time to do anything to look into it. But hopefully someone will ask me a question that I can answer and look like a genius. So let's see what the next question is. Okay. Tartan Phantom. Hi, Tartan Phantom. Rob, thanks very much for the question and support, as always. As we know, Charlton has some pretty unusual and occasionally bizarre romance titles. Which Charlton romance series is your absolute favorite, and why? So, I mean, it's Just Married, and the reason is because of the David and Eileen story from issues 93 to 101. It's not the only thing in Just Married that I like. There's the cover 104, of course, which I love, and I've got I think I have 10 copies of that issue now. And the first one I got is still the nicest. I have not been able to upgrade that. But that series just has some good stories. It has a different focus. Because it's called Just Married, it does have characters that are just married. So it's less about the dating, and it's more about the problems that you have as newlyweds, and there's always some sort of unexpected, crazy problems. It turns out that the husband's on drugs, or the husband wants to be a swinger, or the wife was secretly a go-go dancer. But it has a different focus because of the marriage aspect than the other books do. So I think Just Married is probably my favorite. Close second is Haunted Love. I love the gothic romance. So the mashup of genres, the horror and the romance, and the covers on that series are some of the best. Like, there's some great covers. Issue 5, one of my favorite covers. But issue 6 is a great cover as well. There's a lot of great covers. So those would be my two picks. So thank you. And next question, it's Keith Ingebretson. Keith says, "Hi Scott, I just wanted to know if you ever got into any RPG video games or superhero related video games, or maybe played Comic Zone for the Sega Genesis." Okay, this I can answer. So I did not have a Sega Genesis, so I've not played that specific game. Comic Zone, sorry, I haven't played that. Sega, I never played the Genesis. So, but I am a console person and a PC gamer. And I started, we got an Atari 2600 for Christmas 1980. And I've always had a console pretty much ever since. So after the 2600, we had the Nintendo, the first Nintendo, and we didn't end up getting an N64. There was a brief period where a friend of mine had a TurboGrafx 16, which was tremendous. And so I played that actually quite a bit, borrowed that from him quite a bit. And then we basically jumped right to a PlayStation. And so I've been a PlayStation guy ever since. PlayStation, I've had all of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have a 5 because from gaming, I actually developed arthritis in my thumbs from doing the joysticks like this. And so my thumbs are fine unless I play video games with a controller. So that's been a bummer. My wife just asked me the other day if I wanted to get a PlayStation 5 finally for Christmas, and I told her no because of my thumbs. But I'm a huge fan of RPGs. So, I remember playing Final Fantasy 1 when it first came out way back in the day with my friend Rob. And I've played like a lot of them. What I'm really into, and which I haven't been able to do in quite a while now, is MMOs, so MMO RPGs. So I've played like a lot of those, like a lot. So many that I can't even remember the names of a lot of them. Some really offbeat, weird ones. Some that were like from Korea and like stuff like that. But the big ones that I've played is Final Fantasy 11 online, Final Fantasy 14 online, World of Warcraft I played for quite a number of years. Destiny 2 on the consoles. I've played, you name it. I played EVE Online. I played Conan Online. I've played all of the big RPGs online. The MMOs, I've probably played it. EverQuest I played for quite a while. I don't even remember playing it, but I know I did. Neverwinter, I got up to the max level on like most of these games I'm talking about. So those are some of the big ones. So I'm a big fan of MMOs, and in terms of RPGs that are not online, yeah, I still love them. I think The Witcher 3 is great. That's a great one. One of the best, if not the best. Although it's funny, Dragon Age is probably my favorite in terms of the fantasy ones. And if you play the first Dragon Age, it seems pretty clear that they ripped off the Witcher novels because it came out before the Witcher video games, and it's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious that they ripped that off. They say that they didn't, but they did. But still, I love that first one. It's a little outdated now because there's no voice acting for the player character, but that and Mass Effect, like the original trilogies for those two games, for Dragon Age and Mass Effect, those are like the pinnacle of RPGs for me because I've never had to make moral decisions that are nearly as difficult than anything else. Like, I just there were times where I had to pause the game and I just had to stare into the abyss to figure out, like, oh no, like, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do? There was a part in one of the Mass Effect games where you have to decide which of two alien species to commit genocide against. There's no option to save both of them. You have to decide which species lives or dies, and that was like, I had to answer some real tough moral questions when I was deciding that. So I love those. Those are like the best. So anyway, I could go on, but yes, I love RPGs and I love MMOs. Now, in terms, okay, now you specifically did ask about superhero-related video games. Yes, so Marvel Ultimate Alliance is like one of the best games. Like it captures the spirit of the Marvel universe. Like, it was so great. It has everything in it, man. That game is great. Ultimate Alliance 2, not as good for me. They tried to do some of the Civil War stuff and some other stuff in it at that point, and I just wasn't into it, and I didn't like the mechanics as well. But my friends and I used to get together once in a while and just have like a gaming weekend. So we'd like go up to my friend's house in Maine and we just play video games all weekend. And so we'd have extra controllers, and we'd have the splitter so you could do 4 controllers. So we'd be playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance together, and you'd form like your team of Avengers, and your powers will combine with each other, and so you have to like coordinate your power attacks and stuff. Man, that was the best. DC Universe Online, I forgot to mention that when I was going over my list of the RPGs. I played that for several years. Great game. It's kind of outdated now. And it kind of got a little pay to play, and I just didn't feel like paying anymore at that point. But the first 2 or 3 years of that game were just great. Like, again, that's a game where you felt like you're in the DC universe. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I love that game. So I'm not really up on some of the more current stuff, but those were some tremendous games. So anyway, little trip down memory lane. Thanks very much for asking. Let me get to the last question here. And this one comes from Ron Weaver, who says, thanks again for subscribing, Ron. Do you enjoy any of the other Lev Gleason titles, specifically Daredevil? Okay, so yes and no. I have a couple issues of Daredevil. I have read them, and I like them. And I have purposely not read any more. And the reason is I am a completist. I know if I start trying to get into those Daredevil, I love Charles Bureau's writing. If I start getting them, I'm going to want to get all of them. And frankly, that series lasted, till issue 134 or something? The last 80 issues or so of that are not very expensive because they feature the little wise guys, and much more than Daredevil himself. But those stories are really good. And I know that if I start collecting those, I'm going to want to get all of them. And it's such a huge task that would take me, the next 15 years and a lot of money, that I have purposely not gotten any more issues of Daredevil, because I know I will like them, because I love Charles Bureau's writing, and I don't want to get sucked into them. I have a couple other Lev Gleason books. I've read a couple, I don't think I would get into the crime stuff, right? So the recurring character is important to me. A lot of the stuff in Crime Buster is basically crime does not pay, but with Crime Buster in each story investigating whatever horrible thing. So a lot of the really good ones will have there'll be 10, 15 pages of the story that Crime Buster is not even in. And then once it's happened, then at the end, Crime Buster comes in after all the stuff and investigates, and that's important to me. And so books like Crime Does Not Pay, where you don't have the recurring character to ground it, is just so it's not that as interesting to me, even though the individual stories are all just as good. So I mean, I think Little Wise Guys and Daredevil I could get into. I've read Squeaks. I have most of the issues of Squeaks, which is a spin-off from Boy Comics, but it's a funny animal book. And it's absolutely terrible. They the humor in the humor books from Love Gleason is not funny. And, you know, I've read a couple others, and I haven't gotten into them much. Like, they're Westerns. You know, Bureau's style is very wordy, and I think it works for the crime books because they're really sort of character studies about criminals. But when I'm reading it in a Western, it doesn't feel right. So, yeah, I mean, yes, I like Daredevil specifically. I'm not going to read it, and I have not really gotten into any of the other Gleason books that I've looked at. So, that's it for this time. Sorry I wasn't able to give good answers to most of these questions, but thanks for watching anyway, and let me know what you think of my dopey answers down below, and I'll see you next time.